Family, what's happening? Pastor Matthews here. Welcome to another edition of Transformational Truth. Conversations that confront truths that keep us on the ground. My mentor said something again, and I keep repeating it because it made a significant impact in my life. He says, Antonio, never get satisfied with being the fastest caterpillar, especially when you were created with wings to fly. And most butterflies never become butterflies because they embrace the reality of being the fastest caterpillar. And I had to begin to confront truths that kept me from flying, even though I was gifted on the ground. And so today we are having another conversation confronting truths within my own personal experience and my own personal life that hopefully will add some value to you and shift you into a space of metamorphosis where you shed the cocoon and then you spread your wings and you begin to fly. So today's topic, we're talking about confrontational conversations. Confrontational conversations that need to be had in order to get you to start living and maximizing in your optimum capacity. Confrontational conversations are sometimes for confrontational people easy until it's with themselves. And those conversations you got to have that really challenges you to push you into the next space of growth, to the next space of purpose and intentionality. So here's the reality. In my growth, in my current stage, I can see more of my dysfunction, historically and even present. When I'm acting in a space of dysfunction, I can see more of it. And here's the reality. There were some pieces of me that were exposed by others connected to me, but I constantly ignored them and thought their exposure or their conversation with me was attack rather than affection. And then I realized something, that I'll never change a behavior until I'm willing to see a behavior. Because I always attributed their truth to me as an attack against me, rather than seeing that they loved me enough to tell me the truth. And I realize this, and you've got to take this and you've got to apply it to your life, that you will always reject advice and constructive criticism in the areas of your life that you are not ready to change. If you are not ready to shift and you are not ready to change and you are not ready to experience metamorphosis into your optimum capacity, you'll always reject truth. Nothing no one can say to you that will initiate a change if you're not ready to hear it and if you're not ready to change it. You'll always resist what you need to hear until you are ready to confront it. And we think because we can be a functional dysfunction, that's a new word that I came up, a functional dysfunction, like a functional alcoholic. We think because we can be a functional dysfunction that we can manage a clear destiny through cloudy optics. And you'll never see destiny clearly until you can see yourself clearly. And once you begin to see yourself clearly, you'll begin to have confrontational conversations with yourself that push you into a place of optimum capacity. I was reading this scripture that really resonated with me, because faith is the basis of my existence. And so this scripture in 1 Corinthians chapter number 9, Paul is talking about the reality of what I'm just speaking about, that your life can experience optimum capacity until you have the courage to really address some things that keep you in a state of mediocre living. That's what I'll say. And so in this text, Paul is dealing with the reality of what I was just talking about. He's talking about a race. He's talking about the necessary elements needed to not just run the race, but win the race. Not just exist in life, but win in life. Not just be alive, but be effective, be efficient, be excellent, emerge, not just run. But he says there's a difference between runners and winners. And his emphasis is not just on running, but his emphasis is on winning. And he deals with the capacity of life winning, life management that pushes you into the winner circle. He says, which suggests this. He says, I don't want you to just run. I don't want you to just be alive. I don't want you to just be breathing, but I want you to have an optimum impact. I want you to be impactful and transformational, but you can't be transformational in your impact if you have not experienced transformation in your existence. And there were some pieces of me that my gift could no longer conceal, that I had to really address. And the church won't have these conversations, and the church won't really address the stuff. I mean, I was preaching and pastoring and thinking my gift could cover my flaws. Then I had my daughter out of wedlock while I'm preaching and pastoring, which means I had the gift to cover it, but I didn't have the character to sustain it. And when you want more out of life, you start challenging yourself in areas that really produce character shifting moments and character developing moments. And Paul says, so I don't want your attention just to be on being alive. I don't want your attention to be on just running and existing. I really want you to win. And I don't know who I'm talking to. I'm talking to you. I am. And my prayer for you is I really just want you to win. I really just want you to win at life. And whatever I can do to share my experience to help you win is really my desire in life now. And so he says, man, I don't want you to just focus on waking up every day and getting through the day. I don't want you to focus on I want you to focus on winning in life. He says, and when you are focused on winning in life, then your focus shifts to addressing everything that causes me to lose. Even if it's a hard confrontational conversation with yourself, I have to address everything that causes me to lose. I have to address everything that keeps me from not being respected. I have to address everything that keeps me from not living, as my coach says, optimally. And there are a few things he shows us in this text in 1 Corinthians chapter number 9, verse 24 through 27. There's a few things that he showed us that if it's not done, we'll never see the winning circle. We'll live, but we won't be impactful. And he teaches us this, and I want you to take this down. I want you to jot this down. He teaches us a couple principles here. Number one, that participation alone does not separate you. Participation alone does not make you any different. Just because you are participating in life doesn't mean you are winning in life. Just because you are moving in life doesn't mean you are manifesting in life. My brother said this to me one time. My big brother Marvin Sapp. He said, "Tone, just because I'm functioning doesn't mean I'm healed." And a lot of people think functionality is fruitfulness. Functionality is not fruitfulness. Sometimes functionality just shows that you have the capacity to mask the pain for the moment in order to be productive in a session, not at life. And so he says, man, just because I'm functioning doesn't mean I'm healed. He says, my desire is not just to function. My desire is to function in fruitfulness. And so me, if I want to win at life, if I want to be an effective pastor, an effective father, if I want to be an effective friend, I've got to focus more on fruitfulness than functionality. Because just because I'm functioning doesn't mean I'm fruitful. And I want you to, when he says, so Paul says this, participation doesn't separate you. Functioning doesn't separate you. He says, everyone runs. Running does not make you distinctive. Participating does not make you distinctive. Showing up does not make you distinctive. Showing up does not make you different. Waking up, going to work every day does not make you different. Because when I think just showing up gives me an advantage, when I have the mentality that just showing up gives me an advantage, well then, Javon, that's called entitlement. That's called entitlement. And entitlement is the enemy of excellence. Did y'all hear what I said? I had to tell myself that entitlement is the enemy of excellence because I assume I don't have to put the work in. I assume I don't have to sacrifice simply because I'm gifted. And there were times in my existence and in my personal life where I felt entitled without earning the respect. I felt entitled without reason. I had no justifiable reason to be entitled. I had no justifiable reason to feel like I've made it or I've arrived. There were people more qualified, people more capable, but I thought because I was gifted, I didn't need to train. See, you think because you're more gifted than them, that gives you the space of entitlement to be effective. No. Just because you're more gifted does not mean you don't have to put the work in. People were more qualified, they were more capable, but I thought because I was gifted, I didn't need to train. I didn't need to put the work in. Didn't need to study. And that mentality always puts me in the back. And I had to tell myself, I had to have a confrontational conversation with myself that I would never advance until I dealt with the spirit of entitlement. Entitlement makes you late. Entitlement keeps you in lack. And entitlement keeps you longing for what someone else has that you didn't work for. Entitlement had me longing for stuff that other people had that they worked for, and I ain't worked for it. So I had to confront it. I had to confront entitlement because entitlement makes you think you can do anything you want, treat anybody the way you want it to, and they will still give you maximum effort in whatever you ask. I had to confront entitlement and then develop a work ethic that warranted my position in the race, that warranted my position in life. I had to develop a study habit, a work ethic that distinguished me from the runners. And so I had to understand, number one, major key, if I'm going to win at life, that I had to realize that participation does not separate me. Just because I'm showing up doesn't mean I'm effective, doesn't mean I'm efficient, doesn't mean I'm producing. Just because I'm alive doesn't mean I'm living. And I really want to push this to some people who are alive, but you're frustrated. Well, why are you frustrated? Because you are alive and you are functioning, but you haven't found that niche to make you fruitful. You haven't found that thing to make you fruitful. What is it in your life that you have to address that brings you out of a space where you feel like just because I'm here, I deserve everything that belongs? And so I had to confront that space that, hey, just because you showed up doesn't mean people are going to get up for you. You got to really confront that if you want to separate yourself in this place. Secondarily, I had to understand that it's purpose that drives me to stand out. Watch this. Paul says, run to win. That's what he says, in essence. He says, you got to run to win. He says, if winning is not your purpose, if winning is not your aim, if winning is not your goal, then your participation will be wasted. Because if I run to win and I lose, I'll never be satisfied with losing, but I'll always be proud of my effort of intentionality. I'll always be proud that I had a why. And you'll always have to have a confrontational conversation with yourself about the why I do a thing. It's no longer about just doing it. There has to be a why connected to it. There's got to be a reason. Because, watch this, the why, if there is a reason, if there is a why, the why will develop your discipline. The why will give you a direction. And the why will help you deconstruct anything that keeps you from winning. If there's a why, if there's a purpose, if there's an intentionality, it will help you develop a discipline. It will say, listen, this is my why, and I have to develop a discipline in my life that negates or keeps me from operating in a space that cancels my why. Purpose helps develop discipline. Purpose helps gives you a direction. And purpose helps you intentionally deconstruct areas of your life that keeps you stuck on the ground. Because when you know your why, you know what to do to address the things that hinder your why. Having no why keeps me in limbo and gives me no clarity. And so I want to encourage you, find your why, because when you find your why, you'll find your joy. Because when you don't have a why, you are manipulated by the circumstances. You are manipulated by the things that surround you. You've got to find the raison d'etre. I'm doing this. And even when you're not appreciated, if you are unappreciated in a space you don't think is your why, you'll find your appreciation and affirmation in other areas. But when you are functioning in your why, and the people that you are functioning in your why with don't appreciate you, you'll still get the satisfaction that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And eventually what I'm supposed to do will connect me with the people who will appreciate what I'm doing. So I've got to understand that just because I'm alive doesn't mean I'm functioning. That my participation in life doesn't mean I'm winning in life. I've got to understand that it's my purpose and my why that makes me stand out. And lastly, it's the principles that I live by that help dictate success. Your purpose has to be connected to principles. Your participation has to be connected to principles. Paul lists several things in this text and key components that signifies and postures you for winning. Because there are some key components and key principles that really put you in the space for not just participating in life, but winning in life. And number one, he says, he deals with the the notion of the necessity of self-discipline. Because when you think of self-discipline, you've got to see how God developed you. You've got to see the total encompassing aspect of self-discipline, and how God developed your makeup. We are spirit, we are soul, we are body. So if the core of you is not under control, then the whole of you won't be. At the very least, watch this: spirit, soul, body. At the very least, you should have discipline spiritually in your soul, which houses your emotions, your feelings, and your physicality. So I should be disciplined in my spirit, spiritual discipline, emotional discipline, and physical discipline. If any one of these areas are not intact, then your life will not be fluid. He says, self-discipline. What's the total entity of yourself? My spirit, my soul, and my body. How can my spirit be disciplined and my emotions are all over the place? How can my emotions be disciplined and my spirit is not foundation? I don't have a core of spirituality. And then how can my spirit be disciplined? I'll go to worship, I go to church, I study, I read the Bible, I pray. My emotions, I go to therapy, I'm settled, I settle myself every day, but I'm out of shape. I'm not healthy. He says, if you are going to win, every part of you must operate in self-control. He says, so that's what I had to really bring into my space. I had the spiritual component together, so I thought, because I knew scriptures and I knew how to present it and I knew how to do all those other things, but it didn't become me. Because even though I was spiritual, I was allowing my gift to run my spirituality, and my lack of discipline run my life. Golly. Did you hear what I said? So my gift showed up in the pulpit, and my lack of self-control showed up in the streets. My gift showed up in the pulpit weekly, but my inability to live it showed up in the streets. That's a hard conversation to have with yourself when you think you winning and you're really not. So I had to come to the space. Hey, Tone, listen. If you don't start becoming and being, your lack of discipline will expose you, and it did. So I had to have. He says so self-discipline, and then he says self-dialogue. I had to have confrontational conversations with me. This is what Paul says in verse 27. He says, I beat my body into subjection. I confronted myself so that I'm not guilty of the very things that I teach. And so he says, in order to be winning at whatever your calling is, to be effective, to be an effective teacher or mentor, you must be an effective self-evaluator. And there were some things about me I was not prepared to address until I saw it was keeping me from becoming my optimum self, until I saw it was keeping me from becoming better. And I knew if I wanted to win and be effective and to be an effective example, I had to have hard conversations with myself. Because if I didn't, the stuff that I ignored would come back and keep me from winning. And I had to have this is what I said to me, and I'll share it with you, and then we'll close out. You are too gifted and you are too anointed to not have the talk with yourself about the things that keep you from maximizing your gift and walking in your anointing. So I had to talk to my ego. I had to talk to my arrogance. I had to talk to my narcissistic ways. I had to talk to my anger. I had to talk to my jealousy. I had to talk to my manipulative behavior. I had to talk to my deceptive behavior. Because those traits, your gift can't hide forever. And I had to address them with me. Say, yo, you got to be better. And it's those conversations that help engage the metamorphosis that I'm experiencing now, so that my life can take flight and get off the ground. So I want to encourage you watching this. Begin to have tough conversations with you. And this is transformational truth. Begin to have tough conversations with you, because your gifts can't hide traits that are present to derail your purpose. Work on you. Bring alignment to your spirit, your soul, and your body. And understand, you don't have to just participate in life, but you can win in life. Peace. This has been an amazing episode of Transformational Truth. Listen, here's a few things that I want you to do. If this session has added any value to you, I want you to share it. All I'm asking you is to send it to 10 people who you know are living beneath their potential. Send it to 10 people who you know are living in a space where their life can be better, but it's not. And let this encourage them to have transformational conversations with themselves, addressing truths that keep them in a cocoon when they know they're supposed to be flying. That's what just share it with somebody. If you feel the need to sow into it, you can see it on the screen. You can sow into it via Cash App. You can sow in AMMATTHEWS, or you can go to the IM website, www.antoniomatthews.com. If you want to see this continue, if this has added any value, share it and sow into it. I want to thank everybody for watching. I want to thank my producer and editor, Mr. Javon Manning, and everybody who is a part of the IM network. We'll see you next time on Transformational Truth. Conversations that help engage your metamorphosis. Peace.